Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be calling scripts from buttons. So we have our buttons in the scene already, but we need them to act upon our scene to cause something. And to do that, we'll need to write some scripts to handle our button presses. So we're going to create a bunch of a new script. We're going to add a bunch of functions to it to handle the different cases. For us, it's only going to be a new level, or I'd rather load the game and then quit the game, and we're going to call those functions from the buttons. And then we'll check that everything works out okay by logging out the console. So let's get started. So now we jump back into Unity, and the first thing we'll notice, we'll have those two buttons, the start button and the quit button in our hierarchy. We can grab the start button, go down to the button component in the inspector and find the on-click list at the bottom, and it says list is empty. So by default, it doesn't do anything whenever the button is clicked. We want to change that. So how do we change that? Well, what's a logical thing to do? We just click plus, and we can see three things come up. We have a runtime only, editor and runtime and off. That just means when the button is active, when you can actually use it. I'm going to keep it to runtime only. Then we have the non-object, and that's what object the function is going to be called from or on. And then we have the function dropdown itself. Right now, because we have no object, the function dropdown, you'll notice it has no is deactivated. Now we want to drop in an object here, a game object, and then we can call functions on it. Now we have no game object right now to manipulate the scenes and to quit the game. So I think it's time we create our new object. So we create an empty object by right-clicking the hierarchy, and we're going to call this new object a level manager. And our level manager is going to be at position 0. I'm resetting the position because objects like this that have no purpose other than to have scripts attached to them, by convention we add them at position 0 to make life easier for ourselves. We don't want them to be all over the place in our game space. So we have a level manager, and then now it's time to add a script to it. Now there are many ways you can do that. I'm just going to click the add component and click on new script and give it a new name, and the new name of our script is also going to be level manager. Now that might be a little bit confusing, but the point is this level manager script is a component of the level manager object, right? So here we go. And it'll make sense when you start calling it in your code, because it'll be nice and neat to say level manager dot do something. So now we have this level manager, and we can see that the script has actually been created in our assets as well. If we look at the project folder, the project pane, we can see in our assets we have a level manager C# script. So that's great. We can then start to edit the script to add the behavior we want. So if I double click on this level manager script, we can see two functions have been pre-created for us, the start and the update function. We don't want either of those. We don't really want to use those. What we want to do is load a new level. Basically, we want this level manager to be able to say load a new level, so that when we click on the start button, we can load the game level. That's the idea, right? That's the aim of the exercise. The aim of what we're doing right now is when we are in this game, when we click play and press on the start button, we load the game scene. Right now we are in the start scene, which you can check by looking at the title bar, and we want to load the game scene whenever we press the start button. So let's jump back into our code and create a new function. So this function is going to return absolutely nothing, and we're going to call it load level. So this load level function has the job of loading a level. How does it know which level to load? Well, we're going to give it a string name, which is going to be the name of the level to load. And what do we want to do with this name? Well, we want to do nothing right now. We are just going to try and log it out to the console to make sure that the function has been called properly. That's all we're going to do. And we're going to write a little message on our console saying something like level load requested for, and then plus the name. And now if we go back into our Unity editor, we have this script. We have this script attached to a level manager object, and now we can drag this level manager object into our start button. So we have a start button here. We grab the level manager object from our hierarchy, and we drop it into the slot that says non-object. And now you'll see immediately that the function dropdown has become active. We can then click it, and we can try and find our function, the load level, in our level manager function dropdown. Now you'll see a bunch of other things, including the game object, the transform, etc. We don't care about all those functions. Those are default functions or default attributes that have been created by Unity for other reasons, but we only care about load level. So why is load level not coming up in our dropdown? Well, the reason load level isn't coming up in our dropdown is if we jump back in, it's actually currently not public. Now, every function needs to be public if it's going to be accessed outside of the class it's in. So if I put public here as a keyword before my function definition, that means that will tell the compiler, I want this function to be accessible to absolutely anyone that wants to call it. This is public. Everyone who wants to call load level can do so. Now we can jump back into our editor, and then now when we try the drop-down function, we should see load level as a string coming up in our dropdown. And once we've got this load level selected, we now can type which level we want to load in the box that's created. And I've selected the game level because I want to load the game from my start button. Now if I press play and select the console and I click on start, we should see that some debug code, the debug comes up in the console to show us that the button has actually been clicked properly. So let's pause that, and now it is your turn. Your turn to do exactly what I did, but instead of doing it for the start button, do it for the quit button. So we're going to be using the same level manager, but instead of calling the load level function, the quit button should call the quit request function. So the idea is that we have a quit request function that is called by the quit button when you press it. So good luck, and I will see you when you're done. See you very soon. So how did it go? Let me take a look at what I would do to get that working. Firstly, I want to add the quit request function into my class. I want to be able to call quit request. I'm making sure I make it public. I go quit request, and it takes in no arguments because we don't need to say which level we're quitting to, because quitting implies quitting the game. So now we go debug.log, and we will leave a little message, write a little message to the console. Let's call it, I want to quit. Here we go. And that will now tell us that the quit button has been properly wired to the right place. If we jump back into our editor, we can then click on our quit button, and we can then add a new handler to our onClick, drag our level manager into the open slot, select the right function, and we want to select quit request on the level manager. Now, why is quit request not here? Did I make a syntax error in the code? Yes, I did. What did I forget? I forgot the return type, which is void. I'm returning nothing from my quit request. So now I should be able to call it. And indeed, it does show up in the dropdown. So now I've got my quit request sorted. Let's test it and see whether it works. I'll press start, and we can see a message come up in the console. I press quit, and a message comes up in the console. And this concludes our video on how to get buttons to call functions in scripts. I hope you learned something, I hope you found it useful, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now.